Greetings, everyone. So this is part 3 of this series on what us astrologers have been calling Barbeau's basket or Barbeau's bowl. And I want to start this one out by explaining why we are calling that. I'm Jeffrey Grutner. I am a shaman and an astrologer and an energy healer. And if you like the information that I'm providing, be sure you give it a thumbs up and share it. And I hope that it inspires you and helps you understand what the archetypal energies within humanity and on the earth are doing as we look at what is happening with the planets out there. So what this is, the Andre Barbeau was an astrologer who studied the patterns, especially of the outer planets and the geometries they formed a long time ago. And he identified this pattern that is forming up right now here in July 2026 as a very significant time when there could be a shift in a world affairs completely, and saw it as a positive thing. And in my previous post, I was talking about, well, there's a whole lot of things that are breaking down and it appearing to most of us as being quite negative, and they are. So there's a mix of things, and that breaking down process is to break down the old patterns. What we are called to do is to not to focus on the destruction, but to recycle the energy of that into the positive and to call forth from ourselves the positive, the vision that we want. So let's just take a look at the this circle of planets here. I've set it up because this is the idea that it's happening here on Earth. This is the projection of the sky onto the Earth plane. And the ancients have done this for millennia. They would lay out stones where the sun rose, where the moon rose, etc., in order to mark this and to anchor the connection between the cosmos and the earth, which is a very important mystical principle that I encourage everybody to do. Maybe not like this, but by bringing things into the earth plane that represent our connection to the whole cosmos. And this one is set up, as I've said before, it's set up for the morning of July 19th at sunrise. So the sun is there in the northeast, and the planets are in the arrangements, roughly in the geometry that they exist, and the directions that they will exist at that time. So what I did is I created the chart, which is the projection of these planets onto obviously a two-dimensional, a piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is to shift this in orientation. This is the upright mode and the way we look at the chart. So this is for the non-astrologers, obviously. And I eliminated most of the other ones except for the outer planets and the moon. And I included Mars and Saturn in this too, but where the basket or bowl is forming. So you can see in here a grand trine that on that morning the moon comes into alignment with, and it is in trine to Uranus and Pluto. So those planets, the energies they represent: death, rebirth, transformation, awakening, change, and bringing individuality, freedom, and social justice, Uranus, and new technologies and ways of being. And the moon, how we embody it and how we are feeling about it, bringing it into the subconscious. So they are in supportive positions. The moon in this case is going to be in Libra, which represents that whole idea about relationship and social justice again. So those are in the grand trine positions, and then the sextiles, which are 1/6 of the circle, moon to Jupiter, to Uranus, to Neptune, and Pluto. And if we shift it in the orientation that it is laid out here on the land, then we're going to get this. So you see that the moon is lining up with the symbol of the moon. Behind here, this chime is in the center. And the sounds that are all highly tuned to the perfect fifth are resonating as though the way that these planets are resonating harmoniously. So with this position, then, this is where the moon will be. Right now, it's still transiting just away from the sun, as it was a new moon yesterday, as I'm recording this on the 15th of July. So here you can see that there is a bowl shaped, or a basket. There's a weaving that's happening here, and there's an open end here in this position. But that's why it's being called Barbeau's basket, because it is so unusual for these planets to come into such exact harmonious connection to each other. And know now that they've been forming up for a while, and they're going to continue through 2027. So yes, we're focusing on this week and this one day as being very significant. But even if you see this afterwards, or if you don't comprehend it all, you're trying to just be with the energy, know that you're embodying these things, because to some extent these planetary energies are all invisible, and many of them are collective because of the outer planets. So when we move this in this horizontal position, then we get where the planets actually are. Uranus in that position, the moon, Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto. And the reason, just jumping ahead a little bit, I included Saturn and Mars is in the first video, or the second video, I talked about Saturn, how important it is in terms of our lived reality, the shared reality, and things we are creating and that are enduring. And Mars, which was just had an initiation here with Uranus around July 3rd, July 4th, also moves into a supportive position. Mars is cooperating with helping to create or bring energy to these Saturn functions on this day, within that period of time here in Central Daylight Time between sunrise and local noontime, when the moon, or the sun is at its highest point. All of these planets come into this sort of perfect alignment. So that's why we call it Barbeau's basket. And so what I want to talk about today is, I had ended with the idea that Neptune, representing the collective soul and representing our inspiration, and that idea of connection at its highest frequency, Neptunian energy is universal love and compassion, and it helps us to tune into where the collective really is in these matters. Those are high vibrations. There are some other vibrations that go along with Neptune, and again, I'm just going to stick to my position that I'm going to avoid mentioning the not so desirable aspects of these archetypal energies. We know that they're going on, but we need to stay focused on what are we calling forth here from an inspirational perspective. And this is where I wanted to start here, because I want to mention that this is the realm that the poets and the mystics and the artists live in, because what they're trying to do within their own individual expression is to bring out their sense, their connection. It might be their own individual soul, but often the ones that really catch fire and take on, they're expressing something that is in the collective. And you might say, well, I'm not an artist, Jeffrey. I'm not a poet or whatever. But you have some poetry in you. You have some mystical experience within you, because we're all these immortal beings taking on form here in the earth. So do your best in any kind of an expression, and maybe it's as simple as creating a beautiful meal for someone that then brings some kind of soul to them. In your everyday life, you can be creating a kind of poetry, a kind of prayer. And if that's the kind of intentionalism and mindfulness that you can bring to this period of time, it is going to be amplified beyond what we typically trivialize as our everyday work, our everyday processes and habits. So if you are a poet or a musician, create, share with all the rest of us and inspire us. If you are someone who is creating just in your everyday life, do that. Do that with soul, and with the intention that it is spreading this highest frequency, this highest vibration, so that we can elevate our consciousness and bring it into the lived reality. So starting again here with Neptune, what happens then is that on that morning, the moon comes into direct opposition to Neptune. And so my camera person, Fenella here, is going to line it up so you can see how this planet, and that representing the Earth, and the moon on the other side, well, that creates awareness. That is like similar to a full moon. The full moon creates awareness, it creates feeling, it's the opportunity to embody things. So that is where the pinpointed time of July 19th between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time comes into being. Now, across the circle, 1/3 of the circle in the trine to Neptune is Jupiter. So Jupiter here is very near the sun. And when, by the time we reach the full moon, Jupiter and the sun will be aligned. So we're looking out at great mystery, the sun, our star, connecting us to the cosmos, and beyond that is Jupiter. So the Jupiterian energy is being brought through the beams of the sun and into our being. That's going to be on the full moon, July 28, 29. And the significance here, going from this deep inspirational at the soul level, Jupiter is a visible planet, and so metaphorically it's like, how are we bringing that into a lived philosophy? Jupiter also brings us times of growth and expansion, so it amplifies things. And it is about those opportunities that help us to connect to others, to new ideas, to greater philosophies, to other people. So that is being amplified, and the connection to the Neptunian energy is being increased and supported by this expression. So what is the lived philosophy that you want to bring into being? And it's also connected to democratic governments, where the people are living by a set of principles. So that's important too, and we'll go into depth about that. But to know that this is what is being supported, and that moon in the sign of Libra, of relationship, social justice, that these three are working together. We'll let the truck go by. And so from Jupiter to Pluto, these come into opposition, as I said. And so Pluto is that depth, digging very deeply to get down to the essence of things. and it is about death and rebirth. It is about transformation, and it's about empowerment. So in that sign expression of Aquarius, it is emphasizing social justice, equality, new ideas and innovation, democracy itself, given that piece. But the ideas of what we're bringing in. So Jupiter in opposition to it, and it's in the sign of Leo. So it's really about this creative expression, and they're in a tension, like a full moon tension, but it brings awareness. So what is it that we're breaking down, and how is it that we're expressing out the philosophy we want to live by? Again, there is a negative side to this. Negative, I'm going to use that terminology here, even though it creates duality, but there is a lower vibration expression of this, where the king is trying to take power from the people. That also is something, and I wasn't going to mention those things, but it's there. So it's up to us to be focusing on what does this mean to us, so that we're contributing, because we are all part of the collective. Most of us, myself included, feel, just weak and feckless. Just there's nothing we can do. I don't have money. I don't have political power. I'm not an influencer. I appreciate anybody paying attention to me here, but there's no there. But what I can do is to bring this into spirit and radiate it out from my being, and that's what I want to encourage people to do. So that completes the major planets that are forming up in this tight harmonic formation. And so with that, I want to just bring this one to a close, to encourage you to express from the Leonian position with radical self-love your own philosophy, and make connections and grow and expand your possibilities in the world, allowing to shine through our own stellar energy, that sun, again, this connection to spirit. Embody it, bring it into your sense of, in the moon here, into the deep subconscious level and emotional feeling, and allow yourself to express the freedom, the new ideas, Uranian energy and Gemini, new ideas and choices. And sometimes they're going to come suddenly. So the more we cultivate that mindfulness and that sense of how we are creating around our truest inner selves to bring into this outer world and to share with others, then there's going to be times when there's going to be sudden, unexpected changes, but we have to be making choices about what we're focusing our thoughts on. So again, there's many other elements here going on, and that will be maybe my next video. I'm going to tell you what is the lower vibration elements and the ways these are expressing, and why it's so important for us to focus on the higher vibration, so that we can continue to feed the soil, the underworld of our being that grows new civilizations. And we do it by being in this moment, in these creative and empowering ways. So I thank you. Wait to see you next time. If you would like to connect with me for a reading, a consultation, astrology-informed life coaching, or astrology-informed spiritual guidance, if you are interested in ceremony or energetic healing, please contact me through messaging or through my website. Thank you. Talk to you.